Woman taking her brother off life support gets a dramatic call just moments later. But before we start, please give the video a like and make sure to subscribe to Wonderbot and hit the bell so you'll never miss any uploads from us. Stress levels run high in the hospital, where each daily task is literally a matter of life and death. For all the expertise and high-powered technology collected there, doctors do make mistakes on occasion. They can only hope they realize their errors before it's too late. In 2019, one Chicago family received heartbreaking news about a loved one. As they prepared for the most difficult day imaginable, an unexpected message came out of the blue. Soon they were questioning everything the hospital had told them. Rosie Brooks always believed that family was the most important thing in life. Nevertheless, she grew apart from her brother, Alfonso. They'd barely communicated in recent years, but when he re-entered her life, everything changed. Any phone call from Alfonso surprised Rosie, since you could never predict when he'd reach out. But one phone call in May of 2019 really shocked her. This one wasn't from Alfonso, it was about him. Chicago's Mercy Hospital recently rang Rosie and her family with news of a recent tragedy. Police found Alfonso lying in the street. He was naked, unconscious, and badly beaten. Rosie linked up with her sister Brenda, and together they rushed over to the hospital. They weren't allowed to see their brother right away, as the doctors were still working to stabilize him. Doctors were less than optimistic about Alfonso's future. He'd taken the brunt of so much violence that it was difficult to even recognize him. Only by comparing the patient to old mugshots could the medical staff tell it was Alfonso. Rosie and Brenda soon arrived at the intensive care unit, and they confirmed that the man was their brother. This verification was especially important since Alfonso's family needed to make a crucial decision about his health. Left with no other option, the Mercy Hospital staff had to put the patient on a ventilator and feeding tube. They told Alfonso's sisters that his chances for recovery were slim to none. However much the realization hurt, Rosie and Brenda agreed that this was not a state Alfonso would want to be in. They prayed for a miracle over the next few days, but saw no signs of divine intervention. There was only one thing to be done. The Bennett family pulled the plug, and Alfonso slipped away not long after. Feeling that they'd somehow failed their brother, Rosie and Brenda swore that, at the very least, they would give him a proper send-off. The sisters got into the thick of funeral planning, contacting friends and loved ones, finding a burial ground, selecting a casket. But right in the middle of their preparations, an unexpected visitor stopped them in their tracks. Alfonso suddenly appeared at their sister Yolanda's front door days before the funeral. Not only was he alive, but he didn't even have a scratch on him. Needless to say, he was baffled when he heard they were planning his memorial service. The supposedly dead brother did his best not to laugh at his family's expressions of disbelief. He described the meeting as, "I'm looking at them like, wow, I'm ready to like barbecue or something, and they're looking at me like I was a ghost." Suddenly, the situation came into clearer focus. Alfonso was never on life support. He was never even in the hospital. The sisters had pulled the plug on a total stranger. So, how did the Bennett family get wrapped up in this situation? Apparently, it began when a witness at the scene told police the victim was Elijah Bennett. Not finding that name in the system, officers entered him as Alfonso Bennett. Then, due to so-called budget cuts, the medical staff never even took the patient's fingerprints. They relied solely on old photographs and the testimony of upset family members to pinpoint the beaten man, which led to this whole debacle. The leadership of Mercy Hospital was mortified. Glad as they were to hear of Alfonso Bennett's good health, Rosie and Brenda did pull the plug on an unknown patient. Now they had to find out who the heck he was. After further investigation, the John Doe in question turned out to be a man named Elisha Brittman. The bystander who'd found him lying in the street mixed up his name, which led to the case of mistaken identity. While the Brittmans mourned, the Bennett family found that they weren't out of the woods yet. Authorities declared Alfonso dead legally, and that status bore very serious legal consequences. Alfonso, a recipient of disability and Social Security, realized that those benefits stopped the instant that Elisha Brittman passed. With his livelihood shredded, he had to scramble to get his affairs back in order. Meanwhile, Rosie and Brenda deemed the incident the weirdest few days of their lives. It had to be one of the strangest medical mix-ups in history. Of course, they'd heard from past stories just how strange comas can get. At the end, we want to know your opinion about the story in the comments box below.